Hi, and welcome back to Storytime with Nana, Lynn, and Glow. Today we're going to read another chapter in Another's Treasure by Nancy Mell. We left off at chapter 16. We just found out that the sword that Uriah Barnhart has was used to murder Anita's great-great-grandfather. So let's read here and see what happens next. Chapter 16. For a moment, Elizabeth was too shocked to speak. She simply stared at Anita. "What on earth do you mean?" she finally asked. Anita reached up and patted her perfectly coiffed hair, as if making certain it was still holding its shape. It was something she did quite often. Elizabeth wondered if it was a nervous habit, or if she really was worried about how she looked. "Our great-great-grandfathers were friends," she said. "Good friends. They joined the Union Army together and fought side by side, but something happened. Some kind of disagreement. My great-great-grandfather, Gideon Smucker, was killed, and Uriah's relative took his sword. My father fought for years to get it back, even through legal means, but he could never prove the sword originally belonged to Gideon Smucker. But somehow he ended up with it," Elizabeth said. "I mean, you had it." "Yes, I did, and I should have kept it. When I was deciding what to keep and what to sell, for some reason, I felt the need to get rid of it. It's a symbol of something awful. But now it seems I've made another mistake. Uriah has the sword, but he can't be allowed to keep it. I must have it back." She leaned over a bit, drawing closer to Elizabeth. "I will pay you $1,000 to bring me that sword. It's very important." "I can't do that. This seems to be something personal between you and Uriah. We sold the sword in good faith. You never told us not to sell it to Uriah Barnhart." Anita rose and stood over Elizabeth. "You continue to block me, no matter what I say or do. I want my possessions back, and I want them back immediately. Do you hear me?" Her voice had taken on a hysterical tone, and Elizabeth felt it was best to leave before things got out of control. She put her coffee cup down, pulled on her jacket, and stood up. "We're doing all we can to get your things back, Anita, but we're doing it as a favor to you, not because we have to. Your threats to sue us are useless. They're baseless. We both know that. However, if you can't be civil, we'll have to stop and let you take care of this yourself. You caused this situation, not us." With that, she picked up her purse and headed for the front door. Thankfully, Anita didn't call her back. She was trembling as she got into the car, but it had nothing to do with the temperature outside. Maybe they should have refused to help Anita from the outset. Trying to be accommodating was backfiring badly. Was Anita bad-mouthing them all over town? Would it hurt their business? Elizabeth couldn't be sure. As she drove back to the farm, all she could do was pray her words hadn't just destroyed second-hand blessings before they really got started. Martha couldn't help but worrying about Elizabeth. How was her meeting with Ruth going? She'd been gone a long time. Shouldn't she be back by now? Mary came walking up to the counter. "I need something from the house. Want anything while I'm in there?" "I'd love a glass of lemonade," she said. "And maybe a couple of those peanut butter cookies I made yesterday?" Mary smiled. "You got it. Think I'll get some for myself as well." She patted her flat stomach. "Your cooking is dangerous. I'm going to have to watch it unless I want to buy bigger clothes." Martha snorted. "With that metabolism of yours? Impossible. You've always eaten whatever you wanted and never gained an ounce. It seems I can't get rid of these extra 15 pounds, and I've had them ever since Craig was born over 3 decades ago." Mary laughed. "Things change when we get older." "Don't I know it," Martha said with a sigh. "I can't eat half of what I used to. It's very discouraging." Mary laughed. "You'll be fine. You look great. Right after Chuck died, I gained almost 30 pounds. I finally got it off, but it was really hard. I guess I'll have to learn to live proudly with my extra Craig pounds." Mary reached for her sister's hand. "I'm sorry for everything you've been through, Martha. I really am." "I know you are, sweetie. Thanks." Martha watched her as her sister headed to the house. Mary could drive Martha up the wall sometimes, with her scatterbrained ways, but she'd always been compassionate. Her sweet nature was something Martha wished she had more of. She knew she tended to see things in black and white, without much gray. Maybe Mary's caring disposition would rub off on her a little. Mary had just gone inside the house when a woman entered the store. She nodded at Martha and headed toward the back of the barn as if she knew exactly what she was looking for. Pal, who'd been lying next to Martha's feet, stirred and began to emit a low growl. Martha stared down at him. What was that about? Feeling a little alarmed, she stood up and began to follow the woman, with Pal on her heels, still rumbling his displeasure. Is there something I can help you with? She asked the woman, who had stopped at the display of pictures and paintings at the back of the barn. She shook her head. No, I'm just looking for something specific, and you don't seem to have it. She stared down at Pal, whose throaty grumble was a little unnerving. The woman scanned the pictures on the wall once again. When will you get in new paintings? There's no certain time. We just put them up when they come in. Martha frowned at the woman. Can you tell me just what you're looking for? Before the woman could answer, a voice came from behind them. She's looking for a copy of the Torelli painting, aren't you? Martha turned around to find Mary scowling at them. This is the woman who was here the other day, and I just remembered where I saw that piece of fabric we found after the break-in. It's from the blouse you were wearing the last time you were here. She glanced down at her feet. Sneakers, just like the tracks in the mud outside. The woman's face fell. Yes, it was me. I'm sorry. I was so rude to you the other day. It's not like me. But it's like you to break into our barn, Martha asked. The woman stared at them wide-eyed until she finally broke down and began to cry. I'm sorry. You see, my daughter loves that painting. I've tried to buy a copy of it, but even the copies are terribly expensive, and we just can't afford it, not with all the hospital bills. I don't understand, Martha said. The woman sighed and pushed back a lock of hair from her face. Martha noticed the tiredness in her eyes and the dark circles beneath them. My daughter, Kelly, has cancer, leukemia. Everything we have is going toward medicine and hospital costs. What made you think we had the painting? Mary asked. Even we didn't know it at first. I used to work for the Smuckers, the woman said, as a maid. I'd seen the painting at their house. When Mr. Smucker died, his daughter let me go. Mr. Stucker knew Kelly loved the painting, and before he passed away, he told me he was going to leave it for her. Before I left, I asked Anita about it, and she told me the painting was being sold. She needed the money. She hung her head. She said she'd given it to you. That's why I came here, to buy it. When you told me you didn't have it, I didn't believe you, so I was so desperate I came back and broke in. I thought maybe I could find it. She shook her head. I'm so ashamed. I've never done anything like that before in my life. I just wanted something to make Kelly smile again. It's all I could think to do. I guess I went a little crazy. I'm so terribly sorry. Can you forgive me? She looked at the boarded-up window on the side of the barn. Of course I'll pay for a new window and anything I broke. I didn't mean for that to happen. Before Martha could respond, Mary wrapped her arms around the woman. Don't worry about it. And yes, we forgive you. We'll also try to find that painting. If it's in our power, we'll make sure your daughter gets it. Martha frowned at her sister. How could she possibly promise something like that? The woman sobbed as Mary held her. When Mary released her, she wiped the tears from her eyes with the back of her hand. I'm Eleanor Wallace. Mary Baxter, Mary said, and this is my sister, Martha Watts. Eleanor held out her hand, and Mary shook it. Then she extended her hand to Martha, who also took it. She'd just let go when she noticed Elizabeth standing a few feet away listening. Didn't know you were back, Martha said. We've been wondering about you. Elizabeth, this is Eleanor Wallace. She used to work for Smuckers, Elizabeth finished, I heard. Did you find out anything about the painting? Mary asked. Elizabeth flushed and looked away for a moment. We need to talk, she said, and then she smiled at Eleanor. Could you give my sister your phone number? She asked. We'll call you as soon as we have something to tell you. Eleanor nodded. Of course, I'd be happy to, and thanks for not having me arrested. I really am terribly ashamed of my actions. All I can say is that I'm not myself right now. Mary put her hand on Eleanor's back and began guiding her toward the front counter. Come with me, and I'll get your contact information. As they walked away, Martha noticed Elizabeth's worried expression. Is something wrong? She asked. I'm not sure, she said, but I may just have ruined Eleanor's chances of getting that painting for her daughter. Wow. The plot thickens, huh? Well, you join me in the next video, and we'll continue the story. But until then, keep smiling, And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.